Public have 2 times that they can speak in the council meeting. The first is public comments, and the second is public hearing, if there's one scheduled. Other than those 2 times, the public should remain silent during the council meeting. Anyone making disturbance during the meeting will be asked to leave council chambers for the remainder of the meeting. Also, as a reminder, please ensure that you follow the county's legal prohibition against engaging in partisan political activity, including speech, during this meeting. This meeting is not called for that activity, and such activity is prohibited by law. Please join me in a moment of silence as we stand for 13 seconds to recognize.
Oh, okay, so I see. So we're not gonna be attending the meeting. I think they're just gonna Zoom us in. Is that right?
Right.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the meeting is both, they're conducting it in person, but they live cast it on YouTube.
Oh,
So a lot of people are on YouTube watching it and engaging in it.
I don't know if y'all can hear us, but you should mute your mic.
oh, this is just so complicated, huh?
It's, Amanda pulled it together like a champ, you know?
Yeah.
She called this morning, she's like, all right, let's walk through this. And does this sound, you know, like it's.
Please mute your microphone.
Sorry.
Please join me in a moment of silence. 13 seconds for the 13 soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Yep, thank you. And pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this day that you've given us to live. Help us to remember that we're not promised tomorrow, so we can live in this moment, be grateful for this moment, and we have a lot to be grateful for. Even in times like these, in my short 51 years walking this planet, I've never seen times that seem so out of control and divisive and just sometimes wearying and difficult. But you've given us spirits of courage to move through, to plow through, to do the right thing, and I pray that you would help us to remember that so much is out of our control, except for the little decisions that we make. So tonight, as we make those decisions, as staff help counsel, as counsel makes decisions, give them wisdom. Make those decisions come out of soft hearts, out of kindness, out of love for our neighbors, out of your wisdom. And then we just walk one step at a time and do the next right thing. And that this would be your meeting. I pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Hart, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the August 17th, 2021 regular minutes?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple matters. One, you've noticed Ms. Brock is filling in on some of the duties for the clerk to council until we have a replacement for Ms. Smith. She won't be taking over all the duties. Don't need an appointment to that position as she is already a public officer by way of her position as county administrator. But with Amanda's lead and staff coming along, we'll get the minutes, get everything that needs to be done to you all timely until we can get someone in Katie's spot. The other matter was as to 2021-19. This is the Development Standards Ordinance. Since we had a lot of public excitement and involvement with the last, we'll just call it land use regulation, I just wanted to give a kind of a primer on where this one, how it came about. The Planning Commission started up with it. I think the Agricultural Advisory Board was involved too, mainly to get some sort of buffering between dissimilar uses that are adjacent. So the Planning Commission drafted the ordinance. It was with our prior planning director, It made it to the Planning and Economic Development Committee, and they passed on it, but because of the leaving of our director and the timing, the Planning Commission ended up taking it back up not too long ago, passed it again, sent it to the Planning and Economic Development Committee. They passed it again to bring it to council. Now it'll take 3 readings and a public hearing. It'll also, before that 3rd reading and a public hearing, go back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing, a review, and a report back to council. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for public input. Welcome public input. It's essential for things like this. So just wanted to give you an idea that this isn't the last stop for this ordinance. It's been a long road. There'll be more to go unless it doesn't pass. That was all. Thank you.
Ms. Brock?
I have nothing this evening, sir, thank you.
Okay. So on our 2 proclamations, we have Ms. Jill Miller here to receive the proclamations. Proclamation 2021-11. Whereas 20 years ago, the United States of America was forever changed on the morning of September 11, 2001, a day of infamy. The lives of nearly 3,000 men, women, and children were claimed by terrorist attacks. And whereas from the darkest moment came rays of hope as many true American heroes rushed into the smoke and danger, risking their lives to save others. And whereas rising from the rubble and despair, the spirit of patriotism strengthened as all came together as Americans to mourn and lift up the families who lost their loved ones. And whereas it's our responsibility as Americans, 20 years later, to remember the sacrifices made by many who answered America's call by enlisting in military service or as first responders. And whereas on this solemn anniversary, may we all pause in prayerful remembrance and reflection, coming together in unity as one people, proudly joining together in our love of God, home, and country. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2021 as Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, so that our citizens never forget those lost in the deeds of true American heroes. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Ms. Bellis with the daughter of the Revolution, I forgot to mention. Proclamation 2021-12, United States Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it's fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary to the patriotic celebrations which we commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuance of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. Is there a motion to approve?
Move. Second.
All in favor? Aye. again. Thank you.
Let me assure the council and the public on behalf of the DAR, the Wizard of Tomasi chapter, that we will honor forever and always the Constitution of the United States of America and the history of our nation.
Let's see, do I have any public comments?
I wrote on one on the bottom, it's not handwriting, but the same, so
Well, let me remind everyone, public comments are limited to 4 minutes per person. I'll hold up a yellow 1 minute remaining sign when you have a minute left, and I'll hold up time's out when time's up. So, let's see. Mr. James Smith.
Council members, thank you for the privilege to be here tonight to state my business. My business here is the rat business in Oconee County, rat growers. I really have no personal problem with them, but I live 25 feet from a pasture that they throw tons and tons of rat manure, feces, dead rats on this pasture. And it's unbearable to do anything around your house. It's like living in the middle of a city dump, I guess you'd say. So I don't think it's fair that the citizen of this county, great county, should be treated that way. Also, my main concern is the runoff in this pasture goes into the creeks, into our drinking water. Tons and tons. I mean, not only rat feces, it's dead rats also. So it goes down into the Poor Farm Lake, on down Conross Creek into Lake Hartwell, where most of you probably get your drinking water. I'm not sure. But I know I've only got 4 minutes, but I've talked to DHEC, and it doesn't seem to make any difference to me. They tell me rats are clean. You could go in and lay down with them and eat. I don't care what they say. A rat is filthy. Unless they're giving him 10 or 15 baths a day and powdering him. But I don't like it, but there's nothing I can do about it. Surely to God somebody can. I don't see it dumping on the public citizens of this county like that. Reminds me of Barnwell, South Carolina, in a way, where all the spent fuel is dumped. That's all I have to say at this time. I give my remaining time to Marcelo, if that's all right.
We limited to 4 minutes per person.
Okay.
That's all.
That's all I have to say, and I appreciate you letting me come here and speak. Thank you.
Morris Oliver.
Yes, sir. I want to thank y'all for letting me speak and follow up on what James was saying. The water does go into Conross Creek from the runoff of the rat manure. And it also winds up in Lake Hartwell where the city of Anderson gets their water. And then we got it going into Lake Kiwi too from other places. It's being dumped on hay farms, pastures all over the county. And we got all kind of industry in this county. And we're letting one industry dump their byproduct. The byproduct is rat manure. And it's having an effect on Lake Kiwi, the algae. I fished it for years, and I know what I'm talking about. It's happening. And I have called, I've been working on this over a month. I have called senators, congressmen. I dealt with DHEC. I got DHEC to come up here, and they putting these people under a permit, but the end results will be the same. All of their manure will still go on our pastures and our hay fields. And all the difference is they'll be monitoring theirself about how much, where, and when, and they'll be under a permit. I talked to the DHEC lady from Columbia, and she told me she was really impressed with those rat farms, how clean they was. I told her I was not impressed by rats, period, and especially not the manure that comes out of them. And something will have to be done, and I want the citizens of this state, not just this county, this is a state thing. I want them to stand up and say no. And I will speak against it as long as I can. And I'm not through, and I'm not going to be through. This is the nastiest thing that has ever hit this state. Little children are playing in Lake Hartwell, in Lake Kiwi, in rat manure water. I can take you and show you where it's coming into Kiwi. I know what I'm talking about, and I've talked to people over there, and it's got to end. But James says, we can do something about it. The citizens of this state can do something about it. Congressman Jeff Duncan's office, I called him, young man down there talked to me, and told me that DHEC would have the final word. I told him, no, the people that owns DHEC will have the final word. And that's the citizens, right here they are, of South Carolina. We'll have the final word. And something's got to be done to stop this nasty, filthy thing that's going on. I wonder what gives them people the idea that they got the right to just dump this on our land and put it in our water. Everybody, Greenville County, Anderson County, Pickens County, Clemson gets their water out of Lake Hartwell. Hartwell's getting a double dose of it, getting it from Corner Ross and from Kiwi, Lake Kiwi. And everybody's drinking rat water, is what it is, what it amounts to. Now, if you think a rat is clean, keep drinking it, but I don't. And I don't think their manure is clean. It's the most toxic feces there is. And I've run into this. I've been like a man out in the ocean on a log by myself, but I'm not stopping. When I stop, it'll be when these people back here behind me tell me to stop. And I'm willing to take it as far as it needs to go. And I even contacted a senator's office. I got a letter at home from him. And he recommended that I go to my state representative. Well, my state representative, he did call DHEC. I'd already called him, and he did get him to call me. But now, he hadn't contacted me since. And we need people, the representatives from Pickens, Greenville, Anderson, Oconee, needs to get together, and they need to go down yonder and knock on Mr. Henry McMaster's door. He's the man that can stop this. And the people needs to stand up and say, no, we're not going to take this filth and let our children play in it and drink it. Just think about it. Rat manure in our water system. Tons and tons they put on these pastures. It's the way it saves them money that gets rid of their byproduct. I want to thank you for letting me speak.
Margaret Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm coming before you because of a need in the county that's been going on, and it showed itself last winter. I'm coming to appeal to you to reach out to Red Cross, American Red Cross, to possibly get a task force, which I spoke to a gentleman on the council that recommended a task force, and I agree with him. It'd be a good thing to look into, and that's the homeless. Last year, right at Save-A-Lot, there was trash, tents, and there's people out there now feeding, clothing, reaching out to the homeless. But they cannot open up a shelter, reason being it takes a lot to open a shelter, and a shelter is temporary, it's not permanent. It's not a solution to the problem, but it is to help with the problem. The reason I know that, was a volunteer a total of 25 years with Red Cross. I know what it takes to set up a shelter. The other thing that troubled me last year, I went to town in Seneca. By the hospital, there was a man wrapped up in blankets sitting on a bench. 2 hours later, I come back through, he's still there, only he's over, so I called the security at the hospital and tell them, you need to check on this man. It needs to be a concern of all citizens, and these people that are out there now trying to reach out to these homeless. I know a lot of people feel like we don't want them around, but God created all human beings from the day they were conceived until the day they die. And these were made by Him, whether they're doing right or wrong. They are human beings, and there's children out there with those homeless. I know that for a fact from years ago, that there was people taking their children with them and sleeping in the woods, and nobody seemed to care. That's why I'm appealing to you all, because you have the authority and you can reach out to Red Cross. I tried last year. They wouldn't, because of COVID and everything going on, they wouldn't even put me through. And that's wrong. A citizen should be able to reach out and get help on any problem. But I know the Lord Jesus Christ has all the answers, and the Word of God has all the answers. And I know this is a problem, and that task force is a wonderful idea to get together with the people that's already out there and come together and see what else can be done about a shelter. And the only answer I have is American Red Cross, because they have the ability and the skills. Thank you.
Marvich.
Good evening. I'm Tom Markovich, in case Ms. Brock doesn't know who I am. Anyway, I'm here to speak on development standards. I do not believe this is, I'm against it. I don't think sufficient thought has been put into this. There's quite a number of properties that would be excluded from this. This is just another mechanism that is designed to implement zoning and try to enforce it through the development standards so that it'll apply to control-free land. When I say it's not going to apply to all properties, the part of the Comprehensive Planning Act that subdivision development comes under, and where this would end up coming under, exempts lots over five. When you're doing a subdivision and you're plotting lots that are over 5 acres. So let's just say you're down in a farming area and you're trying to alleviate this problem with uses kind of bumping up against each other. You could have one farm, he's still farming, and another large farm, and he decides to go ahead and sell off his property. And he divides his lots up into greater than, they could be 5.01 acres. None of this applies to him at all. And so, and there's the people that are going to be impacted by this the most are going to be people who want to try and develop small parcels, multifamily housing, and other aspects. I mean, we have an affordable housing issue in this county, have for some long time. Y'all signed off on a white paper a few months ago that the Planning Commission had put together, and the ink's barely dry on it, and yet it was all about affordable housing, and now we're going to try and put in and develop some development standards. They're just going to cost the price to go up because each developer is going to have less land. I have one lot. I'm going to lose 50% of the property that I can use because of this ordinance. And it's because my lot's a triangle and it has long sides, and I'm going to lose 20% of my frontage, my road frontage. In commercial property, that's the only thing that's valuable is your road frontage. So I don't know. I'm against this thing. I think it's just another attempt to zone control-free property, and anyway, thank you.
Patsy Davis.
I want to thank the officer and the gentleman that got that noise, because that machine back there, we can't hear back there. I want to come and thank Julian Davis and Paul Kane for the help that they've given Utica and Amanda Brock. They have been down there doing physical labor and helping other connections be made, and I just wanted to come and publicly thank y'all. I know y'all done a lot. Now I'm going to talk to the real council. They're the ones that votes. I have heard a lot of negative talk towards the councilman. I can tell you that does not do any good. For the last 15, 16 months, I've been feeding the homeless on Utica, about everybody knows that, thanks to the Central Journal. And I have seen a difference when you put love into action, and that's putting the other person first. Paul and Julian Davis, anytime I went to them with a problem, I usually tried to go with a solution. But if I didn't have a solution, they helped come up with one. But I went not putting them down. I went in love, putting them first. And they responded in love and tried to help find a solution to whatever problem I was dealing with that day. If you do that, this county, if this group right here, anybody you come in contact with, if you reached out in love, we could change this county. Because not only is our county going downhill, our nation is, but we could start and reverse that if we would walk with love on our mind towards that person. That's what these two gentlemen and Ms. Brock has done down in Utica. They put the people there first because we've got some major problems there, thanks to drugs. So, but they've been down there trying to help us because we, the residents, didn't ask for the drugs. So they've been trying to help us get it cleaned up. But they put love into action and it's made a difference. Anytime I put love into action, it's made a difference. The other day when my great nephew, I did not put love into action and me and him went round and round. That's just the difference. That's the way it goes. If you don't put love into action, you're going to go head to head and it doesn't end good. But we can make a difference in this county. One, by the way we treat our elected officials, because all they do is vote, and they vote the best way that they know how. You may not agree with it. They hadn't guaranteed it, but they were leaning that way towards the convenience center on the county property, and then they came back and said, no, we ain't. Well, I don't agree with that, but I ain't been in their face about it. I'm going to God about it, because I'm going to have that convenience center. But if you put love into action, all that is putting the other person first and saying no to selfishness. You will make a difference, and you'll wind up with a whole lot more than you wanted to begin with. I've seen it for the last year and a half.
Ms. Davis, your time's up. I'm sorry.
I promise you it works. Thank y'all.
Council member comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Oliver, I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you, and I don't know any new information since the last time that we spoke, and you actually gave me that new information. Ms. Harper. Where's Ms. Harper? Ms. Harper, you're correct. Homeless is a problem, homelessness, and it's a complex issue. And we have a lot of people in the county that are trying to help the homeless, but we're splintered. So a lot of times people are duplicating services. So you're correct that a task force where they can communicate and each area focus on a specific need. And I would like to personally thank you for your messages of encouragement that you've sent me. You have no idea how much that meant to me. And Mr. Markovich, we talk about affordable housing, but yet we keep passing regulations that make housing more unaffordable. And Ms. Davis, your love and sacrificial service to your community is an example to all of us. And I just want to thank you for that. That's all.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I have to agree that the homeless task force is something that we need in this county. There's no question that it cuts across every council district and every community, and I think that that's something that we need to form, if it be the council's responsibility to spearhead this, to make sure that we're not splintered within the community with all the groups providing assistance. And I know Mr. Davis has provided a lot of his time over to the our daily rest serving over there. So I agree, and I also want to thank Ms. Davis for kind words, but and I agree that we all need to look to each other with love. Y'all may not agree with every decision we make up here. You may not agree with most of them, but I promise you, we're trying to make this place better. I'm trying to do my best to make this the best county that it can be. And sometimes we can disagree on that, but doesn't mean we need to hate each other. It just means we have a difference of opinion. And I appreciate y'all giving us the patience to know that this is a tough job, and we're doing our best up here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments? If not, Ms. Brock, the presentation to council, Perry Hill and Utica Mill Hill Villages Opportunity Zone by Clemson University.
About the lack of diversity members on our county commission. This is Helen Roseman Saunders. I was present for the discussion on opportunity zone for areas from Oak Street back to Goddard, East Main Street to near the Beltline. Then I realized that BRCC, Blue Ridge Community Center, is in that area and offered it to be involved in the opportunity zone. You approved. Tonight, I want to thank you, Clemson University, for sharing their professors, other professionals in this area, Councilman Kane, Ms. Brock, and others in the county for their assistance. After searching the Opportunity Zone legislation, I want to thank Senator Scott, our senator, for supporting the Tax Cut and Job Act of 2017. I knew we had to get the citizens that live in this area, or citizens whose heart are in this area, to give us their input and not let others decide what they wanted them to have. We've had to share their voices, telling us what they wanted for their children, grandchildren, the neighborhood, and community. We also involved our young people. We are fortunate to have almost 15 churches in this area that we reached out to for their help. 1 year and 2 months later, many Zoom meetings, teleconference call, knocking on doors, dropping off flyers, leaving flyers indoors. Dr. Nassar will be presenting the perspective for Perry Hill and Utica Mill Hill Opportunity Zone. Are we finished? No, we are not, but it's a work in progress. Dr. Nassar?
Thank you, Ms. Saunders. I'm going to ask Mr. McGirt to talk about the team that you graciously talked about from Clemson University as well as from the county.
It's my pleasure, and it's my pleasure to have worked and will to continue to work with such an amazing set of community members and public servants and volunteers. We had the opportunity of working with Ms. Saunders and the board of the Blue Ridge Community Center, as well as a large number of the churches that reside within the bounding zones of what is known as the Opportunity Zone. We were already engaged in works to examine and to document food insecurity and hunger and housing needs in the community when the tornado struck. And as that occurred, it galvanized the community together. It was an impressive array and incredibly stark contrast to many of the other communities that we work with across the state and across the region. People bound together to support one another, as you well know, and they became much more active and organized in terms of communicating the needs, the wants, and the we do not want parts of the community endeavor. We had 9 faculty that were engaged across the spectrum, from the dean of the college, my boss, Dr. Leslie Hosfeld. Dr. Nassar was the instrumental developer of the materials you're about to see and will be able to review on the public website, which should go live on both Clemson and Oconee County media within a few days. The work was initially to simply outline, document, and present the lowest hanging fruit, the most reasonable route to positive development that the community wanted, that the county needs, that the city needs, that the community needs. It became much more nuanced as more and more of the team coalesced. I'm just going to name a few of the people. You'll be able to see all of the credit in the website and in the prospectus materials, but I want to call out a few of the major contributors. The entire board of the Blue Ridge Community Center, they were tireless in participating in these charrettes and in these community meetings. They recruited hundreds of participants to voice their opinions, to express their expertise, and to allow the faculty to translate that into data, which is represented in the material that Dr. Nassar will present. The purpose of the data and representing it in a static form and in a living form in terms of developing more surveys and more community input is to provide governance and to provide development, the invaluable perspective of those who dwell within the community. Ann Hope Methodist Church was a tremendous aid in this, and Ms. Patsy Davis, it's amazing to finally see your face in a YouTube. We've been conducting all of this work through COVID, so it's all been remote, aside from the community members who have been willing to print, publish, knock on doors, distribute surveys, collect surveys, and to actively participate in engagement. The House of Judah, Ms. Deneen Wright, the Pastor Andy Kinder of the Church of God of Prophecy, Dr. Curtis White of Ebenezer Baptist. They represent different parts, different areas of the community, and the tapestry is very clear. the results, which you'll see shortly, of this one product, the prospectus, which is to guide development in a community-driven and county-approved manner to increase the livelihood and the quality of life for all the residents and to increase economic activity, to increase prosperity in the area. Turns out to really be focused on housing, not a big surprise, and those parts of the housing spectrum that are the hardest to achieve: affordable housing, senior housing, transitional housing. Through property management. So that was much longer than I should have spoken. I want to thank Mr. Kane for his guidance and the fantastic amount of energy and work and after-hours conversations in order to connect us with community leaders. Ms. Brock for her guidance through the various departments of the community, as well as the infrastructure elements and the utilities, in order to have a very well-informed perspective. Leaders like Richard Ledford with Our Daily Rest and Our Daily Bread, and Dave Eldridge of Ripple of One, incredible and invaluable perspectives to be able to bring all of the community together in order to help design the solution to poverty, the solution to homelessness, which is a long road to hoe. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Hala Nassar, Clemson Landscape Architecture. She not only is going to present a quick overview of the material, because you can all dig into it on the website and parse it, and this is a living document that will continue to grow and garner more and more input, but also she'll be conducting, and she is conducting, a studio in design to establish a vital corridor of transportation and infrastructure from Main Street to Goddard, along Walnut, but primarily along East 6th and Dr. MLK Way. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nassar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you for covering our gratitude, and thanks to everybody. So I'm not going to attempt to thank everybody. Thank you, Ms. Saunders, for your great introduction, and thank you, Mike, for your great introduction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us tonight. I cannot see you, but I'm pretty sure you can see me. I feel very honored and grateful to be part of this team from Clemson University and to help with the Opportunity Zone and with envisioning opportunities for development and for community growth and prosperity. So with this, I would like to be able to share my screen. At this point, I'm still disabled, so if you would allow me, please, to share my screen, I would like to exhibit a few documents and a very, very small part of a video or a movie that we developed as part of the outcome and deliverables to the county. I think, is it Ms. Brock or Mike that needs to give me ability to share the screen? Good, okay. So I have three documents to show very quickly. As Mike said, all of this material, I looked this morning and there are about 12 documents and exhibits for you all at the county to be able to look at in detail if you like. I'm going to start with this one that talks about the community profile. This slide here shows all the partners involved in the work. We start briefly by talking about what is an opportunity zone and what does it offer to interested parties and investors, possibly. You can see on the right, a map for all of the opportunity zones all over the United States as of 2020. This one shows all of the opportunity zone in South Carolina and all of the economic vitality and infrastructure and promoting development and business through the tax credits and funding. Exploring the region talks about how beautiful the Carolinas are and how gorgeous our region is, and enumerate all of the beautiful things that we have in our region, in addition to connectivity. And then a brief history of the city of Seneca, starting as a railroad town. This map here shows the geolocation of our county and community assets, from the workforce, which is our main and strongest asset, to transportation and connectivities to cities and other states, the history of Seneca and Oconee County, the important and major employers in the region, as well as some of the recreational opportunities also in the county and region. We did a lot of studies. This is just a quick snapshot at some of the information that we gathered and analyzed in the process. Part of it was focused on understanding the community and the makeup of it, the demographic information. So we looked at current employment and unemployment before and after COVID. We looked at data related especially to youth and understanding some of their background and education, and also break between male, female, and healthcare status and other information, again, in the interest to understand our community better. So here you can see that we had already marked the opportunity zone. The area in purple is within Seneca, the limits, the zone of Seneca. And this map here shows in the tanned area the path of the tornado that happened last year, with some of the areas that experienced some of the damage here in where the red dots are. In this map, we did an inventory of everything that is considered to be open space / vacant areas. In other words, areas that are possible for. And we did a quick assessment of which ones would be more ready for development than others, based on the availability of utilities and sewage system and all of that. And from quick ones ready for development. We also marked all of the churches in the area. And then we went into extensive demographic analysis, again, to understand the makeup of the demographics within the opportunity zone. Again, this is part of understanding the community profile. On that map, we highlighted, as you can see here, South 6th Street, the mill, the Ithaca Mill, and then the Blue Ridge Community Center, the cemetery, as well as the Blue Ridge Field. These, again, are some of the demographics that we analyzed as part of the study. So percent of white Caucasian, percent of Hispanic, percentage of African American, all of the different represented demographics within the opportunity zone. Residents' median age, we also looked at median of household income within the opportunity zone. We looked at percentage of residents below poverty line, those who are receiving supplemental nutrition assistance program, and residents who don't subscribe to broadband services within the opportunity zone. Here we also looked at percent of residents using the bus to get to work. You can see it's pretty small, but again, we found that there are not too many bus lines within, not just the opportunity zone, but in Seneca in general. Percent of unemployed residents, and percent of residents that don't have high school diploma. percent of home ownership, and then percent of units that are considered to be vacant, and median year of home, the home construction year of those homes within the opportunity zone. So this again was just done extensively to understand, who is living in the opportunity zone and the makeup of the community. After that, we conducted a survey of the of the community, and that was done remotely. There was no interactions due to COVID. And may I continue?
Yes.
Okay. In that exercise, we delivered maps, and we called this the dot exercise, and we asked the residents to mark areas of concern in red, areas of opportunity in their opinion in yellow, and areas that they consider community assets that they would like preserved and kept and conserved. So after that, we consolidated all of this input into this map, and then eventually translated that into imagery to understand what are these areas that are, I call the sacred sites that are important to the community and they like to see conserved, the areas where they see potential for development. And you can see here that it's focusing on South 6th Street. Most of the dots came along that corridor. And then the areas of concern tended all to focus on the mill and the associated Utica village. So that was quickly the community profile document. I would like, those are emails that are unnecessary to have on the screen. And I'll show you quickly a part of the movie that we developed to visualize the area. It's 4 minutes, so I'm not gonna play all of it. It does have music, but I was told that when I play it on Zoom, nobody else can hear the music, so it's gonna be silent on your end. The video after that goes into one area at a time, starting with the industrial and then going to the affordable housing, the single family homes. And you are going to see all of those in the next PowerPoint. So I'm gonna close out of this and share the prospectus document. So this is the final document, the result of the many studying and analysis, not only of the makeup of the community, but also of the site itself and understanding everything and all the layers where all the infrastructure is and where all the opportunities are. So this is the final document that was produced and again is available to all of you. So here again, we talk about the regional partners from the different schools and colleges at Clemson University to the Blue Ridge Community Center, Oconee County, and the city of Seneca. Table of contents. we talk about what, what is an opportunity zone, South Carolina investment and opportunity zone and what they mean, the region and the assets of the region. Here is a different slide showing demographics of the residents within the opportunity zone. And you can see the breakdown of the different age groups. In addition to the famous dot exercise that we did, we also conducted a survey that we made available through the community leaders, Ms. Saunders, and we disseminated that to the different churches, and through QRs, they were able to fill it, and we kind of mined all of this output, and we were able to analyze the information and present it in the document as well. So here, the next few slides are the outcome of the much more extensive survey that we conducted to understand now not only the areas of opportunity and concern, but to understand, to have another deeper understanding of some of the areas that, or some of the needs of the community, some of the thoughts and reflection on what's happening already and where do they see the future. So here you can see again some of the slides that represented the answers to the survey questions. How satisfied were the respondents, just to mention one quickly here, with the existing conditions of the opportunity zone. 23 said they're satisfied, and more than 75% between unsatisfied and completely unsatisfied, like truly unsatisfied. And then different other questions, again, asking them about the highest priorities and needs for the community, what types of development that they see working best for the mill, and so forth. This is one of my most dear slides in the presentation and in the document. It's the one that kind of gathers all the qualitative statements that residents wrote when we sent them the survey. They took the time to let us know how they feel about different things and how do they see the future, how the community came together during the tornado. So if you read the first one, for example, this lady or gentleman, we don't know, said, "I love my town and community very much, and I think it's time to take action and bring more to the area. After the tornado, I saw a lot of people coming together, and if we keep that drive, the so-called Mill Hill could be safe and grow, not just economically, but with love." And the others are equally impressive and touching. Here are some more, again, of the response from the survey. Again, we talk about the assets of the region, of our region. Here again, the location of most of these assets and highways and interconnectivity. So we look at the big picture of the opportunity zone and the main vital corridor going through it, which is South 6th Street / Dr. MLK Way. And the ideas that can vitalize and revitalize that big spine, vital spine. And here are the areas of focus that you got a glimpse at in the movie or the video. Those were the 6 areas that were identified as quick or possibilities or different types of development within the opportunity zone. You can see all that they are all connected by South 6th Street / MLK Way. And those are the industrial park here in purple. The area highlighted in yellow is the single family homes or suggested to be a single family home. The areas in red are the affordable housing areas. The mill is the one in green. The cemetery, because it's a historic cemetery and preservation is important, is highlighted here as part also of the street. And then the Blue Ridge Community Center and the associated fields around it, and connecting it to the South 6th Street as well. So here are some of these ideas, again, that we identified as immediate, ready possibilities for development. The industrial park, which is 111 acres, the area that is the single-family homes that is north of the street, mixed affordable housing, and mixed-use development at the mill site. So the proposal envisions the converting or historic preservation, but converting the mill into mixed-use development. So in this slide here, you can see something like the before and after, but it's visualization. So here is the site of the industrial park, which is also highlighted in purple on the map. So that's the extent of the 111 acres. And the image above visualizes the area expanding and including other manufacturing industries and other companies as well. The area here on the map that is in yellow is the area that was identified as a great possibility for single-family homes. Within, I forgot the brackets of the price range of that, but it would be geared towards the workforce in Seneca and Oconee County as well. The images here, again, are for visualizing how the area could be transformed, and a quick plan showing perhaps even how many lots it can accommodate. The third area on the map up here is the one that has been identified as mixed affordable housing. Please note that those two areas, the industrial park and the affordable housing, are all the industrial park especially is immediately adjacent to the railroad, and the affordable housing is also on one of the main streets up here. You can see in the plan drawing or the aerial photograph, again, a visualization for the different types of affordable housing that can possibly go there. So it'd be a mix of duplexes, townhomes, apartments, rentals, and also a route for home ownership as well. This slide here envisions the historic preservation of the Utica Mill or the J.P. Stevens Mill. I heard so many different names. I am not sure which one is the correct one, but the historic mill and this slide envision the historic preservation, but also the retrofitting it. Like, how can we use this and make it something like an asset for the community? So the slide envisions it transformed into a mix of apartments, studios, efficiency, cafes, restaurants, in addition to the improvement and enhancement of the surrounding landscape. And you can see also here on the map highlighted the location of the mill. And this concludes the 6 areas that we have identified: the industrial park, the South 6th Street / Dr. Martin Luther King as a vital corridor for development that we can pull all of these 6 areas together. The potential for different types of housing, more single-family homes, and the affordable one, as well as the Blue Ridge Community Center as a hub for community gathering, for youth enrichment, and for programs to engage the community back into ownership and bring prosperity to the Oconee and to the Opportunity Zone. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and I open it for Ms. Saunders, Mike, and others for sharing and questions.
Well, I'd like to thank the team for this blueprint for success. I think this is a great blueprint that we need to build off of. Any other comments, Councilman?
Mr. Chair, yes, I'd just like to thank Dr. Nassar, Ms. Rosamond Saunders, and all the folks at the Blue Ridge Community Center, Mr. McGurr, for their input and helping all the community that participated in the development of this. And we talk a lot about the problems in the community over there in Utica. And I spoke with Mr. Hart today, and I said, look, I know that's not in your district. I don't look at it as a district-by-district problem. This is the biggest problem in Oconee County. It doesn't matter if it's, part of it's within the city or part of it's in the county. It really is, as county council, our responsibility to respond to problems in our community. And we don't have the luxury, in my opinion, of waiting much longer. We know that with time, this area has not gotten better. Without planning, it has not gotten any better. Without investment, it's not gotten any better. And so I just encourage the council, as we review these, and the public, as we review these documents and digest them, that we would continue to focus on this area. This is not the end of the planning phase. It really is the beginning of the planning phase for redevelopment. Now, we're always hopeful that some investor would come in and snatch up each one of those identified sites and put, $100 million in there to redevelop the area. But, my 7+ years sitting on this council, that's generally not how it happens. We have to invest. We have to build industrial parks. We have to invest in infrastructure in order to get industry. Similar situation here. We have to invest in the community. We have to invest in public infrastructure, things that will activate those areas, that make it appealing for developers and investors to put their money into our county. So I would just encourage all council members to review this information and come back to council in the next week or two, the next time we meet, to discuss the opportunities that we have in that area, because the problem is not going to go away with more time. It's only going to get worse. And just appreciate everyone's attention to this evening. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kane, I'd personally like to thank you for the time that you spend on continuing to drive home this community that it's kind of time has forgotten. So I have spent a lot of time over there and understand the issues that is over there. And I think part of the presentation you kind of look at is keeping the spirit of the community there. It's not a go in, run everybody out. The biggest issue in my conversations with a lot of people at Utica is give Utica back to the people that are there. A lot of the people that cause the problems are not necessarily the citizens of Oconee County. They're outside issues coming there, harboring in abandoned homes, burned out structures, we've got some things that we're working on tonight with code enforcement on burned out houses that harbor crime. And to me, that's what the goal of this is not to, run people out of there. If you look at one of the slides, it said that a lot of people have lived there, 20+ years. And that's what truly makes a community. And I think that's important to keep that on there. We talk about affordable housing. That's one thing that we do focus on. And there are some regulations out there, but if we don't have regulations, we're going to have the rundown houses that we have in there. A gentleman that I've gotten to know over the last, 6 or 7 years has 2 burned out houses within, I'd say, 30 feet of his home, and he doesn't feel comfortable at night. And when you have to sleep with a gun by the side just to make sure somebody doesn't break in, that's not fair to that person. And he keeps a nice yard, actually picks up the trash when those people leave during the day. And that's what I think people don't realize what goes on in these communities over here is people do take care of their neighbors, and they do help out. And I do want to continue to drive home Ms. Brock and Mr. Kane and all those that have been involved in continuing to make sure that it is an emphasis of this county to help clean this up and keep the crime down, because as we've already seen, it's continuing to have murders and drugs and everything else. So I'm fully invested in trying to find the right answers to give Utica and Perry Hill back to the citizens that live there.
Any other councilmember comments? If not, thank you again for being with us tonight. Public hearing for the following ordinance. Ordinance 2021-16. An ordinance authorizing the conveyance of easement rights to Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority for the purpose of sewer infrastructure construction and maintenance at the Golden Corner Commerce Park and other matters related thereto. Has anyone signed up, Ms. Brock?
No, sir, no one's signed up.
No one has signed up for public hearing. I close public hearing 2021-16. Third reading of the following ordinance. 2021-16, an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of easement rights to the Coney Joint Regional Water Sewer Authority for the purpose of sewer infrastructure, construction, and maintenance at the Golden Corner Commerce Park and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Let's see, second reading of the following ordinance, ordinance 2021-17, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of amended fee agreement between Oconee County and Pre-Zero U.S. Services LLC and amending the amended fee agreement dated as of October 1st, 2019, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2021-18, an ordinance to rezone parcel 192-00-04-028 from the Conservation District to the Lake Residential District pursuant to Oconee County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, Article 8. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
First reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2021-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Oconee County Court of Ordinances in certain limited regards, in particulars only, regarding to the establishment of development standards in relation to lighting, screening, and buffering, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As we move forward, there'll be a lot more discussion as we go into second and then the public hearing moving forward. So I do plan to vote in favor of this tonight. Some of the things that I do have some concern with as we move forward, but the buffer width depends on the size of the acreage. So tonight it was brought up that if you had a specific lot size, that you couldn't use any of the lot. And if you look at the buffer size, like if a lot is less than a half an acre, the buffer has to be 5 feet. So up to 2 acres, 15 feet. So there is a lot of thought process that's gone into here, and especially from the agricultural community is exempted from there. So, if you're out there, we had some confusion on the last one that on my ag property, I'm going to have this huge buffer. Well, we're exempt on here, so I just wanted to clear that up. I have a lot of agriculture in District 4, so, but I do appreciate the buffering and the light out there as development continues to flow out there toward the agricultural area. I kind of like seeing the stars out there, and it's one of the things that I talk about, and I brought it up in our original meeting when this came forth. The not regulating light, and if you go to Greenville or if you go to some of those other places, they have so much light inside those subdivisions, it looks like day 24/7. And I can tell you that my district definitely doesn't want that. So I think from the light regulations and different buffer zones, that does meet, in my opinion, what we should be looking forward to. I don't think in any way, shape, or form it affects affordable housing. When regulations are done properly, it actually helps the county stay beautiful like it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to highlight there is a escape clause. The buffer and screening requirements may be waived or modified between adjacent property owners by agreement and pursuant to a special exemption granted by the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals. So there is an escape clause if the two parties agree. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Durham and my member had no part of this. I think it needs to be sent back because they had no say-so in it. This was what was passed last year.
Okay, it goes back to after the second reading, it will go back to the Planning Commission for their discussion and for public hearing before it comes back up to us for third reading and our public hearing. So the Planning Commission will be able to discuss it again before we go to third reading.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to send that back now and then we delay first reading, send it back to there and then have first reading? Is
Yes,
that what
I
you're?
would. Is that a motion?
I'll make that
I'll make
motion.
motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the, I guess this is an amendment to the motion?
Yeah, it's really just a subsidiary motion to send it to the planning commission, or a referral motion to send it to the planning commission to do what it's bound to do by our code anyways, which is to have a public hearing, do a report on the ordinance, and send it back to you all.
Any other discussion on it?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
This has been through the Ag Advisory Board, correct?
I don't know that it went through the Ag Advisory Board. I know that they had some input on it with planning commission members. That's the.
I just want to make sure it was discussed by the Ag Advisory Board.
Yeah,
That's the
I know
whole
that they
reason
were
we have it.
involved.
Yeah, okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, will you clarify what that was not a vote in favor of that, it was a vote just so.
It was a vote to
sometimes it's a
send,
little
it was a
confusing.
vote to send it back to the planning commission, if I got you correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, ordinance 2021-20, an ordinance to appropriate and authorize the expenditure of a portion of local coronavirus fiscal recovery funding that has been allocated to Oconee County under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, as follows. One, appropriating $3 million of county ARPA funding for purposes of necessary water and wastewater infrastructure improvements for the city of Seneca Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Project. Two, authorizing the expenditure subject to certain terms and conditions as up to $3 million of such appropriated funds for the Seneca Water Infrastructure Project and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bob Ferris, will you come up and give us some additional information?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Council, Ms. Brock, Mr. Root.
Mr. Ferris, can you, Mr. Chair? I was just going to ask if Ms. Brock could pull up the backup material. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you receiving this. Last time I was off at another utility conference, and this was presented to you. So anyway, thank you for this, this opportunity, just to present to you. And, we're trying to be good stewards with funds that have come down from the federal government. And so what we'll do is we'll just describe to you as what has been presented to you. The first one, and there's four projects, three are a little bit larger. But one is to construct a gravity sewer line from the Sheep Farm Road sewer lift station that's being completed to the Cliff B. Lee's sewer lift station. And that is really goes through the countryside, so to speak. It is not on the right of way. And that, actually, the drawing that you have there, the picture that's up on your screen, is actually the water line along 28. But anyway, you have it's more or less, you have pre-engineered, pretty well detailed engineer actually, and an engineering estimate on this project of about a little bit over $530,000 for that project. That allows for operational, I guess, not redundancy, but it gives us options during different storm events, rain events. Allows us, instead of going down to hit the Perkins Creek area, it allows us to go to the Conross Creek area. So this does give us operational advantages during storm events. We've had nothing over that. So anyway, that'll probably impact around 200, 250 of our customers, of our meter locations. The second one is replacing AC water lines along 28. That's probably been something that has overdue, but there's just not been the funds to do that total project. You ride up from Seneca up here, you can see all the cuts in the road, all the patches in the road. Most of that is probably due to that line, to be quite honest with you. So we will be taking that line out of it'll stay in the right of way, but it'll be outside the road, and we would replace that. that whole run right there. The third one that's on the list is to rehabilitate the sanitary sewer main that's along Seneca Creek. This goes from basically from Lindsay Road to Carson Road. Around 4,400 feet, about 30 manholes that will be rehabbed, be lined, and that will address a lot of the I-9 issues that are in that area and hopefully clean up the issues that are going at the Seneca pump station, Seneca Creek pump station for the sewer authority. And so that's something that's been on the list that as far as capital wise goes, that's been long overdue. And then the last but not least is replacing galvanized water lines. That's basically a contingency item. Should we have funds remaining, we would do as much as we can with those funds. And if we don't have funds remaining, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So with a project this size, $3 million that's been allocated, so to speak, that was the goal we had when we went through this and just tried to earmark projects. We use that, realizing, it's not a 10% contingency, which, should be put into some project this size, but, that should work. I think it'll be water systems have to figure out, there's lead and copper rules that are being implemented as we speak. So the galvanized lines is something that every water system is going to have to deal with. But that's it in a nutshell. It's fairly straightforward. And any questions that you may have, just clarify anything.
Any questions?
I got one. I asked this question 2 weeks ago. On Sheep Farm Road, I noticed y'all been over here and over there, and I understand that y'all screwed up the drilling through there and you put it at the wrong grade. Are we paying for that?
No, we're not.
Okay.
That is actually, it's a very good question. We have a contractor, actually. It's a good contractor. First time we've actually used them. But they had an issue with their bore. As we go through rock, there's always issues. They attempted to correct it, but they were unsuccessful in that attempt, and they're going to have to rebore that. But they are bearing the brunt of that cost.
Any other questions? If not, thanks, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I do have one more
Okay.
question. And this right here, you may want Mr. Mulder to step up and answer it. We've got $7.5 million. We've got $2 million going to Salem, $1.3 million going to Westminster. You're wanting $3 million, and the city of Walhalla's wanting $2.47 million. And when I add this up, we're $1.2 million short. Mr. Mulder, how do you figure we're gonna come up with that?
Mr. Chair, he's asked me to come up.
Sure. Yes, sir, come up.
Thank you, Mr. Hart, for your insight and questions. The total dollar figure is not our responsibility to figure out, number one. Ms. Brock and your team here will help advise you regarding where your funds will come from and how those will be spent. My suggestion is the total allocation for the county is actually $15 million, not just the $7.5 you've received up to this point. So if you add up all those figures, you're well below the total $15 million that the county has actually been allocated and will receive in the next payment next year. So even all those dollar figures added up, the $1.5 million you say you're short, that'll be coming in the next year's allotment. It comes in two different payments. So if there's certain amounts of money you would like to delay the spending on those until you get your second allotment, I'm sure all three of the cities that you've allocated funds to at this point would be willing to wait. Many of these projects are going to take longer than a year to design, engineer, and contract anyway. So by that time, the additional funding should be in. We're more than grateful for anything that you guys are willing to give us out of those funds. We recognize that the county's not in any of the water and sewer businesses, and that's some of the prioritized projects that I've identified in the Act. The cities are your primary water and sewer operators in the county. So therefore, it seems appropriate that if we work together, we can utilize those funds for the intended purpose of the Act, as stated as identified priorities. But again, I would suggest that you talk with your staff regarding the amount of money that you've been allocated and the total request, and provide recommendations on how to do that. Again, the cities are willing to be patient and work with you on a phased-in approach, and spread it out over a couple of years so it fits in with your plan. The total $3 million request, we actually got that figure from you. We appreciate that. You had made a statement, was quoted in the paper, that every district should get $3 million. So we took your lead on that, and we felt like, let's take the projects and identify county projects. If you notice, the majority of these funds are being spent in the county district. We were very, very key on identifying those projects because it is your money. It is money that's coming directly to the county, and it should benefit county territories. So the majority of those funds and the projects have been identified in the county districts that will generate additional growth opportunities for you, and not necessarily for the city of Seneca. I don't know about the cities, but regarding us, we wanted to make sure it was a direct benefit to the people of your county and not necessarily to the people of the city of Seneca.
Would if we were equitable about this, gave you $2 million and Walhalla $2 million, would that get you started to where down the road you could get another $1 million and keep operating?
Yes, sir. Like I said, it's going to take probably 6 to 9 months to engineer. Where'd you go, Bob? 6 to 9 months to engineer them and get them contracted and then constructed. You're a year and a half, probably for the first project or two. So again, we're more than happy and gracious. You're more than gracious. We're more than happy to plan a phased-in approach. If you want to kind of allocate a certain amount of funding up front and allow us to get rolling on those, and then come back for all the cities and allocate additional funding with your next allotment, hey, we're happy to get what we can get.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can make a motion here.
We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Any other questions, Mr. Moulder, before he sits down?
Mr. Chair, and I don't have a question for Mr. Paul. Thank you. Ms. Brock, we received the second payment, is it May of 2022?
2022, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is it May or January?
January 2022.
Excuse me, January of 2022. So we're only, let's see, got 3.5 months, about 4 months away from receiving the second payment. I don't see any sense in delaying that, just because I don't think any of the cities will have spent this money by the time we allocate it to them, or by the time January rolls around, frankly, because they've got to bid these projects out and do all that procurement. I say we just move forward.
Well, Mr. Kane, that's your district, and I'm gonna abide by what you wanna do. If you wanna give them the whole 3, or if you want to disperse it equally.
I don't see a problem in dispersing it, dispersing it now if that be provided under the law. But I don't know that anybody up here has ever agreed with you that $3 million per district is how this council is going to divide up these funds. Mr. Mulder saw your.
Mulder got it out of the paper.
He read it in the newspaper, that's right.
Mr. Hart, we don't know how much the exit 2 and exit 4 sewer will cost yet, but it will probably be more than, I don't know, it might be more than $3 million. So that's your district, right? Yes, sir.
And we've never budgeted on capital projects on an annual basis. Well, District 1's getting this, so District 2, 3, 4, 5 need to get that. We've never budgeted that way. The council is supposed to budget based on need. And I would recommend that we continue to do that rather than equally funding each council district, because if we were to do that, and as you and I spoke earlier, you're very much farther ahead than District 3. And, I think it's wise that we continue to focus on projects that are going to provide the most benefit to the county as a whole, rather than just dividing up funding both here and in our regular budget on a district by district basis. There's no precedent for that, and I don't think we need to start that now.
Mr. Chairman. I think the other thing to realize as we move forward with several of these projects is the amount of people that are on each system. I think Seneca's system's probably, I don't know, I could be wrong, but 16, 17,000. You know, Westminster Water, 6,000 to 8,000, somewhere around in there. You know, I know Walhalla is a little bit larger than Westminster, so I think when I go through and talk, you know, my district's 1.3, but, you know, that was agreed upon with their administrator. I've had nothing, obviously they've seen 2 million to Salem. Some of these projects are more expensive than others, and you know, some of them have a larger impact than others. It doesn't mean that each one of them's better, but yeah, when we start talking about even per district and you pull those numbers together, District 5 does lead the way in cost, but you do have a lot of expensive things in District 5. Well, you have a lot of sewer too. So, which I have voted on every single time, and continue to support sewer to 85, but that is an expensive project. And if you went dollar for dollar versus District 4, District 5, I bet the money spent in District 5 is probably 3 to 4 times more than it is in District 4. But again, I'll you know, but I do support that, and I do vote for that, and we'll continue to vote for sewer on 85. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I do agree with Mr. Hart here. We're spending money or allocating funds before we receive them. I have no doubt that we will receive the whole $15 million the way the federal government's printing money now. But one thing that Seneca's doing here that's different than, say, Westminster. Westminster had a defined project, it's going to cost this much. If we don't spend this much, then that money's not getting allocated to them. I mean, Seneca's saying we're going to spend this much money, and if we get this done, then we're going to keep going and make sure we spend the whole $3 million. So.
Why would you not spend the money on allocated projects that benefit citizens?
Well, we're pretty much giving them, hey, just spend it until you get there. You know, where Westminster had it defined, this is a project, we're going to do it, whatever's allocated.
These are defined as well, too. In the backup material, each one of them is defined. And I've actually sat down with the City of Seneca, City of Walhalla, City of Westminster to go over those projects so I understand what the projects are and how they're defined and how they affect the citizens in those areas.
I think the excess, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ferris, was the excess was galvanized pipe, which is not ideal once it corrodes. Is that right?
Well, it is, and to, you know, when you're estimating projects of this size, it is, I don't know, disingenuous, you know, to come up with some number that seems to be so exact when it is not. I mean, we don't live in a beautiful community that has, you know, unlimited resources of sandy soil and easy soil to work with. There's rock, so you have many projects of this size. They require a contingency line item. You just can't go into them pretending, or the projects will continue to come back to you, and they'll have to explain as to why they went over, and so, you know, that's just the nature of the beast. It's simpler on the administration side. It's just and that's the reason I put it. It's a very fair thought and comment, though, but that's the reason I put that in there. Projects of this size typically have contingencies written into them, and I didn't write a contingency in those projects. I just put it as though, yes, we would use the funds and we would be good stewards of those funds. It would help the citizens, there's no question about that, and it would help, obviously, every utility. And I would even propose maybe the other utilities do something very similar. I think it'd be good stewards, and then we do a full accounting of what the money was spent for, you know, along with all receipts, everything that we go towards that. Yeah, no question.
Mr. Chair.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just briefly, this is a reminder, we did this with Westminster and Salem. These are two-part ordinances. It's the appropriations ordinance, so the drawdown from the Treasury funds, set it aside, in this case for Seneca, and then expenditure up to that amount. And so that'll be the process. Ms. Brock could, you know, authorize those expenditures, but she'll be back and forth to council with updates on how the expenditures go, if it's coming under, if it's going over. And a critical part of the way we have it set up is naturally the county is bound to follow all federal guidelines that are related to these funds, very similar to grant funding. So those are passed through to the municipalities in this case. So we will, and we're getting a consultant to help us do this, have to monitor every expenditure to ensure that it's consistent with ARPA funds, that it's not spent on economic development or speculative growth areas, that it's spent on actual needs for populations that are existing, things of that nature. So it'll be a process as we walk it down for each of these.
Any other discussion?
If I could just ask a quick question. So, Mr. Root, is it okay if we appropriate the, say, $3 million, given that Seneca has not even established a contingency line item in there, even though that would exhaust whatever funding we would have prior to January? Is that okay? Or should we do as Mr. Hart's suggesting and reduce that back down, just in case?
Well, at this point in time, my numbers were taking into account Seneca, Salem's, and Westminster's requests. Salem and Westminster are already approved, but adding Seneca to that, that still leaves the county with 1.4 million left from the initial tranche. So that, the Walhalla request would go over that.
Okay.
That's going to be discussed tonight, but as far as those first three, those come within the 1/2 that's on the table right now.
Okay.
You still could appropriate prospectively what's, in the pipe, so to speak, but it wouldn't be the best business practice.
Ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll go. You opposed? No, I'm not. Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Is that 5-0? I'm sorry.
5-0,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, thank you.
Okay, discussion regarding action item. County attorney discussion regarding. Yes. Oh, yes, skip. Sorry, thank you. First and final reading of the following resolution, Resolution 2021-09. A resolution appointing and commissioning Gabriel Hernandez as Code Enforcement Officer for the proper security, general welfare, convenience of Oconee County, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to welcome Mr. Hernandez to the team. Appreciate his accepting the job, and Ms. Brock, appreciate your human resource going after and looking for a qualified candidate.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, now.
And just for the record, Mr. Hernandez is here.
Okay.
Gabe is here with us, and we'll have a separate commissioning ceremony, so to speak, with Ms. Brock afterwards. Not today, but down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Discussion regarding action item, county attorney discussion regarding redistricting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief with this. After the census, each 10 years, we have to do redistricting within the county. That is essentially a drawing of the district lines to ensure that everybody has an equal vote, that your vote is not watered down, diminished, or made greater than it should be. And that can happen. You hear the concept of gerrymandering, things like this, to embellish certain votes and diminish others. The process that we go through and have to go through now, statutorily, constitutionally, is one that has a lot of public input. Ultimately, it'll end up with council approving a new district map that has different boundaries perhaps. The Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office from the state helps us with this process. I've got some documents here that I'll leave out on the table that y'all could grab copies of that detail the redistricting process. The next step will be for Fiscal Affairs to give us a kind of general map on what they believe it could look like. They'll make a presentation to council, have a public hearing at the same time. Again, this is a process that's going to have a lot of public input at least 2 times. But Revenue and Fiscal Affairs folks would like to have more than that, just to ensure that communities of interest, minorities, all of those voices are heard in the final districting lines when they're drawn. If you have any questions, certainly feel free to give me a call. But essentially that's that. I don't want to take up a lot of time with that. Everyone's probably familiar with the concept that we have to do, but it only comes around every 10 years, so it's a little bit of a novelty, I guess. But here are the documents in case anyone wants to copy.
Any questions from council concerning redistricting? Council consideration and approval for funding allocation in amount not to exceed $2,474,080 to the city of Walhalla for critical water infrastructure improvements throughout the unincorporated and incorporated service area from the Coronavirus State Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. Is Mr. Scott Paris here? Yep. Yep. So is anybody from Walhalla here to discuss this?
Mr. Chairman, why don't we do like we did last thing and just go ahead and have the first reading and pass it, and then let them come back on the second reading and.
Well, this isn't a reading, this was just a discussion, but that's what we did last time. We just sent it on to be an ordinance.
Mr. Durham, can you tell us anything about the project from Walhalla?
Well, I was supposed to meet with Mr. Burton, and he was sick, so I have to reschedule my meeting with Mr. Burton.
Okay, so we're gonna put the first reading on next meeting, is that what I hear?
Well, we'd have to have a motion to send it, that's what we've done. I'll make the motion, that's fine.
Second.
Any discussion on that? And we need to have someone here from Walhalla for first reading.
I'll send out the invitation, no problem.
All right.
For clarity of the record, the motion is to direct the county attorney to draft an appropriate ordinance for the Walhalla request for ARPA funding, and I'll have that for the next meeting. It'll probably be different because of the tranche issue. It'll probably do an allocation for a second appropriation, just to make it very clear, so we're not appropriating funds that are not in the bank yet.
That addresses that concern.
That's fine, but.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Council committee reports, planning economic development, Mr. Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Planning Economic Development Committee met 4:30 PM on August 17th, 2021. Mr. Mike Smith, Planning Commission Chairman, addressed the committee and gave a brief presentation regarding development standards. Mr. Elliott made a motion, seconded by Mr. Davis, approved unanimously, to refer the ordinance to full council for consideration, and as you all saw today, it was referred back to Planning Commission. Next, we had a discussion regarding the Q3 economic activity update. Ms. Annie Caggiano, Oconee Economic Alliance President, addressed the committee, gave a brief overview. She has welcomed a new member to her team, Mr. Tyler James. She also discussed marketing, website analytics, and property activity. The committee took no action. The next Planning Economic Development Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, beginning at 4:30 PM. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Board and commission appointments. Let's see, Aeronautics Commission, District 5 seat, no questionnaires on file. Building Codes Appeals Board, one at-large seat, no questionnaires on file. Council will go into executive session for the following purposes: receive legal advice and discuss opioid litigation. 2, discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Ruby Slipper. 3, discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Remy. And 4, discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Queso.
Move.
Second.
Moving to go into executive session. All right. All in favor? Aye.
Not green yet.
No. Okay.
Yep.
Is there a motion to go out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. No action was taken in executive session. Mr. Root?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just need a motion in relation to the first item, the opioid litigation. That motion would be to instruct the county attorney to relay the county's consent to the opioid litigation attorneys regarding the bankruptcy plan options.
Move.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.